All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Hector Guerrero. How's it going, man?
Hey man, it's fine, CG. How about yourself? How you doing?
Oh, I'm doing really well, man. I mean, the name Guerrero, it's just a prestige wrestling name in this business, man. Like, you come from a huge lineage of this business.
Yeah, that's true. That's my father was a patriarch. He started in the 30s, in the mid 30s, and in Guadalajara, and went to move to. He went in to see a boxing match. Well, he went into practice. He wanted to become a boxer, and so he went in and he saw wrestling. So he tried wrestling, and he liked it, and he started wrestling as Joe Morgan. So he then uh, he then translated to Mexico City because Luderoff, this guy named Luderoff, last name, started in Mexico and bought a whole block and created what we call La Arena Mexico, which means Mexico Arena Mexico. And my dad was one of his stars. And let me show you a picture. Let me. He's right behind me here. I'd love
Okay.
for you to get a chance to look at this. This was in his younger prime, and how do you see that? Check that out, man. So that's
Gory Guerrero, huh?
and if you see there, you got three belts that time. That's how popular he was as a heel. If you know what a heel is a bad
Bad
guy.
guy.
He was a bad guy, and people hated it. Well, as he had sons and everything, I went with him to one of his matches back in the early, maybe 55, 56. I was a little boy, and the people that were with me said, Hector, make sure you don't say your name or don't say your daddy's name. And so I'm thinking to myself, what do you mean don't say my daddy's name? Well, there was some people saying some nasty things of him. They were throwing stuff at him. So I really, and then at that time he was a tag team partner with El Santo, and so I got a chance to go with him, and I met El Santo, and El Santo was great. And El Santo later on separated himself from my dad because my dad left to the United States to make more. Instead of making pesos, he wanted to make dollars. So he started wrestling in Texas, and then he went up to North Carolina, went to St. Louis, did a lot of the territories. Uh, I mentioned North Carolina, Tennessee, uh, a couple of times down LA, and he was very, very, very liked by the wrestlers. But American wrestlers were big, and he was big too for Mexico, but not as big for them like they were here in the United States. Like you look at a guy like Fritz von Erich, right? The von Erichs, they're all tall. They're big guys,
Yeah, they have a
very,
big
very tall
territory in
guys.
Texas.
Yeah, let me hang this baby up here. Let me hang this baby up here.
Okay.
He's a patriarch of the Guerreros. So we all respected him dearly. We all respected him dearly. Uh, he had four sons that wrestled, two daughters. My oldest sister, Maria, and her name, we call her Cookie, but she's a sweetheart. She's still alive, and she calls me daily. I don't know if you know that, but we had a hurricane pass by. I live in Florida, and it was a destruction. We didn't have any power till yesterday, but thank God and I'm a believer in Jesus Christ. As you see, Jesus is Lord. I'm a
Yeah,
believer in
Jesus
Christ.
Christ. I mean, the hurricane was pretty devastating in Tampa. Like Hurricane Milton is what it was. Like,
Yes,
it's
it was.
never been as bad. Like you just said, your wife says she's never experienced something as bad as this one.
Yes, that's exactly right. And my wife's a native from Florida. So anyway, so get back. I'm thankful to be here, and then I want to thank for all the people that are listening to us. And let's continue. So Gory Guerrero was my father. He had four sons. Chavo Senior. He had a son called Chavo Junior, and we call him Vito, but he's still around. He works with Hollywood. They did a movie called the Iron Claw, right? The Iron Claw.
Oh yeah, he did the Iron Sheik, huh?
No, the Iron Claw, the
The Iron Claw,
Von the story about the Von
the Von
If you
Erichs.
look, if you see the movie called The Iron Claw, so my nephew, which is my nephew, he was Eddie's nephew too, even though they were tag team partners. He was Eddie's nephew too. He did all the choreography, all the wrestling. He thought they worked with the actors that did it, and they were very good. And my nephew has we got a lot of respect for him for doing that. But anyway, he had four sons and one grandson, and all of us were wrestlers. Eddie was the youngest. Now, Eddie was the oldest is Chavo Senior, and then 1 year younger there's Mando, and Mando is a very, very, very good wrestler. Not very tall, but very good in the ring and very creative in the ring. I've seen what Eddie did where they would do the throw the he hit somebody and then give the guy the chair, and he'd lay down like he's doing. Mando would do that all the time. I saw that Mando do that in Mexico, and we used to have our own promotion. So my dad, not only did he have sons that wrestled, but also he had four sons that helped him with the promotion, and daughters. My sister Cookie and my younger sister than me, Linda, and she's a little bit older than Eddie. She was like I think 7 years older than Eddie. Eddie's 13 years younger than I was. Now I know he's passed away. He's with we believe he's in paradise with the Lord. We've had
Yeah,
confirmations. You get confirmations when you're close to God. You're going to see visions. You're going to see things. The Bible says that if you you get so close to Him, Jesus will reveal Him to you, and that's what's happened as you really get really closer to Him. Changed my
yeah.
life. Changed completely my life.
I
Christianity.
mean,
Yeah.
Eddie was like a huge influence for a lot of the young generation. Like everybody just
Yes.
started even to this day, I still even have this shirt that says "cheat to win" or something.
Yeah. Well, but you
I
didn't see
mean,
Chavo wrestle. You never saw my dad wrestle. You
I
never saw
never seen your
Mando
dad
wrestle.
wrestle, but he has the coolest name, Gory. Like something gory. Like, does he do something violent?
You're talking about my dad or Eddie?
Yeah, your dad, Gory. Like the name
Yeah,
just
yeah.
sounds cool.
Now he was named. Remember, I told you he started wrestling as Joe Morgan, and then he changed himself to Gory Guerrero. And the reason he did because he had very bloody matches. So the people that knew him knew that he was an American also, because my dad was born in Ray, Arizona, but raised in Guadalajara, Mexico. But and he came in legally, you know what I mean, to Mexico, and but he was still an American, and they came legally and became, like both, like citizenships, and so he ended up uh, wrestling, and they said he had very, very bloody matches. So they say, hey, why don't you call yourself Gory? You always have these bloody matches, right? So that's how he did it. So he called himself Gory Guerrero, and in Spanish, that's what it is, Gory Guerrero. So
Yeah,
he's the patriarch. He's the one. If it all should be, everybody should think about it. I know everybody thinks about Eddie. I understand. You know him, and you saw him wrestle, and you saw the things that he did, but you didn't never saw my dad wrestle. And you say, well, we've seen some things. That, no, you never saw him really wrestle, because you'd have to see a lot of his matches. And back then, we didn't have YouTube. We didn't have phones or cameras. We didn't have all the other things that we have nowadays, and that like Eddie did. And then you have Chavo Senior. Man, he was a gangbuster both in L.A. in California. He was my tag team partner here in Florida and mid South in Louisiana. Mando made it big in San Francisco, and then he went to Hawaii and came back, and he decided to settle in Los Angeles because he wanted to be a stuntman and then go into acting. So Mando decided to go through Hollywood. Now Mando's the one that turned on Chavo Jr., which is our nephew, which is Eddie's partner, and he turned him on to Hollywood. Got to help him get his A card, if you understand what an A card is. It's called a Screen Actors Guild card. I have one too. I've done 2 movies. I've done Bad News Bears Go to Japan. I doubled for Tony Curtis, and there was all those wrestling parts that he had in the movie. And then I did another movie called The Bad Guys with Adam Baldwin and Michael Jolly. And that's my alarm going in. All right. So, and we had to do Michael Jolly and Adam Baldwin were the bad guys, and that's a movie about 2 cops that were moonlighting as wrestlers. All right. Okay, so let's talk about this. So movies are great, but that doesn't define us. And Eddie was a great wrestler, but so was Mando, so was Chavo. And I'm sure maybe people that saw me wrestle would say the same thing. My mother, Erlinda Guerrero, was a sister of a famous, very, very prominent wrestler in Mexico City called Enrique Yanez. Hold on. All right. Let me turn that off. Sorry, bud. So I got to turn that off. Okay. So I was able to be with my. Let me get back to what we were talking about. Sorry, just start getting distractions here and this and that. So hit me up with the last thing that I told you. So
you said something about your mother's being related to
Mom,
something.
Let's go about the matriarch. So she was the sister of my uncle Henry Enrique Yanez, and he was very, 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 very popular with the wrestling also. He was a world champion at one time too, middleweight champion. So he introduced my mother to my dad. And they got married and they had all of us. But I wrestled. When I wrestled in Mexico, I wrestled with my cousin, his son. His name is Javier Yanez. And he's also very, very, he's like a commentator for wrestling too. And has been a great influence. Not only to me, but my dad was he trained with wrestling with us in Juarez, Mexico. We've had a long history of Guerreros. We've had our own promotion. My dad started promoting in El Paso, created a territory in southern New Mexico, western Texas, certain parts of smaller towns near El Paso. And then he opened up a territory in Juarez, Mexico, which is sister city to El Paso on the other side of the border. Now, all of us, I'm talking about Chavo, Senior, Mando, myself, and Eddie. Now, Eddie also, we all 4 of us got our start in Juarez, Mexico. Now, we learned to marry the wrestling. My dad knew the American wrestling and the Hispanic wrestling. Spanish wrestling, which is Mexican, the lucha. So lucha and United States, and we married it both. And in that's what made the difference with us. We could do things that a lot of Americans used to tell me. I mean, I won't say where, but there was some of the guys that say, "Hey, man, you do too much." I go, "No, this is the way I wrestle. This is the way I do it." And then I know they say, "Well, you do too much." Well, I have more, and I could give more. So you want to see that? Then you'll say, "Okay, he's giving a little." So each one of us had our opportunities. Now, you all know about Eddie more because he's the most recent, even though he's passed away in 2005. So go ahead.
But I've noticed that you and Eddie look very much the same, like very alike.
Well, I don't have any more hair, but if you look at my eyes and you look at my face.
Yeah, but the younger years, you were dressed up like kind of like one of those guys from Mexico, but you had the mustache and the same look. Even in TNA, some people thought you were Eddie Guerrero.
Listen, I'm going to see if I can find a picture. And this is a picture that I took for one of my, in Mexico when I went to wrestle for Luteroth, which was Paco Alonso Luterot. And that was Empresa Mexicana de Lucha Libre. It used to be Consejo Mundial de Lucha Libre, CMLL, and then they turned it into EMLL, same company, just different name. And so let me get this. Let me see if I can find this photo. And when I would be, so here we go. This is one. This is one of both of us together. Let me see if I get that one there.
Yeah, that's how you guys kind of.
So we look alike, you know what I mean?
Yeah, you do.
And so when I be wrestling in Mexico, I went to wrestle as Lasertron, but I used a different mask. I should have brought it out. It's not this, this is Lasertron in America, right here.
Lasertron, was that the
In
one
America.
that you had in the AAA and in WCW for the match?
No. This one was NWA.
Okay.
The one in Triple, I never had AAA.
Oh, you never had the AAA, but the one in WCW.
I never wrestled AAA. I almost got there, but I believe in God. Like I said, God, for one reason, did not let me work with them. And God never lets me work for people that are obscure, if you understand the word obscure. They're dark.
Okay. So out of all the wrestlers, who was the most fun wrestler you enjoyed competing with?
They're all good. They're all good. I enjoyed wrestling all of them. I mean, United States, great. You get attitudes in the ring. A lot of people say, this is a controlled sport by the promoters. It's called, a lot of people used to say a lot of things about it, but the wrestling in the ring is real, and I can tell you that because I walk with canes now. I use a walker. I started showing people how to wrestle when I was 12 years old. We had a wrestling school in Juarez, like I told you. We all got started in Juarez, and I would in the backyard we had a wrestling ring, and 7, 6, 5 years old, I was already learning how to do somersaults, learning how to do lucha drills. And there's a lot of lucha drills, a lot of wrestlers will tell you about that. And so with all the training that we had, it really helped us to evolve into what we did. You had Chavo Senior. He's the first one to hit the American scene. We all hit Mexico scene in Juarez, working for our father, but we also helped them promote too. That's something that a lot of promoters didn't understand. The Guerreros, we didn't go for their bullshit, BS. I'm sorry. They try to say something to us, and we go, yeah, we know what you're doing. I was in the territory in 1 or 2 weeks. I knew what they wanted to do with me, and you know what I did? I went away. Wrestling is controlled by the promoters. Why? Because they're the ones that put up the revenue. The revenue. They put it up. They do all the legwork. They put the thing up. But we're also the ones that are battering our bodies, and doing it. And some promoters took advantage of that. I can tell you many promoters that, and you think you probably know that. Now, they're going to tell you who they want you to lose to, or who you're winning with. But in the ring, it's true. We hit each other. We plow it in. And my body, I can tell you that. Like Hogan said one time, I saw him in a little interview just recently. He says, "You know what? If wrestling is fake, then why am I had all these surgeries? And why am I hurting and this and that? Because it's just the nature of the sport. It is a sport. It's a risk taking. Yes, it is. It's an entertainment sport. But then you've got to understand that, because I don't know if you've ever been in the ring. There's a lot of egos in the ring, and not just anybody. I mean, everybody's like, oh, you know what I mean? Hey, I can do that. Yeah, well, get in there and do it. Okay.
Yeah, you get a lot of those show-offs that try to do too much, and then
well, get in there and do it. They don't realize that you got to go through a lot of training just to do that. It's like a stuntman. You got to learn how to throw blows. You got to know how to receive them, and then when you get a potato, that's what we call a real blow. Like they potato you, and you kind of look at them like, okay, this is I'm sorry. And some guys would say that to you, and then they potato you again. Then you say, okay, well, here's your receipt. Bam, bam, you know what I mean? And they say, what'd you do that for? Well, I'm sorry. We do the same thing to them. But the Guerreros, we knew we were very, very promoter savvy. because our father was a promoter, except. And I said, mostly every promoter, very few promoters I ever met that were truthful to me and told me what they wanted to do with me, and how they were going to push me, if they were going to push me, and if I wasn't going to be pushed, how I was going to help them push somebody else. Then I'd work with them too, But if you keep pushing somebody, that's what we call a jobber, and they just keep doing that. That's what WCW was doing to me. And I got rid of that because I said, you know what? I told Eddie and I told Chavo Jr. when I was wrestling in the 90s with WCW, I went in there I had just got my degree in physical education and kinesiology at the University of Texas at El Paso, because I stopped in the late 80s, way 89, 90, and went back to school after being in Mexico for about a year and a half. I decided to go back to school because I saw how promoters were. They were just taking advantage. And the older you get, they want to take advantage of you more. So I said, you know what? I ain't doing this. So, I went, got myself a degree, and ended up getting a degree. And I stopped for about three years, and I got it. And then I said, you know what? I'm going to try to go back to wrestling again. So I made some calls. And WCW went ahead and hired me for coming in, but they never gave me a contract. See, no contract.
You were just competing on just like on a once a week daily contract, right? Where they
no. They never listen to me. They did not give me a contract. They would pay me per match.
Oh, okay.
Do you understand? And when they do that,
you didn't get a contract, but they would pay you for the match.
Yes. No? Yeah. And
you're like an independent kind of worker, huh? Like they don't even give you a contract or nothing like that.
Yeah, they didn't. And you know what? And we never. That was the old way, because with Chavo and I and Mando and probably Eddie at the beginning, you never got a contract. You just wrestled and they paid you for that night. That's the way it was. So then they started coming out with contracts with WCW because these guys get in there. And Jim Hurd, and then after that, he's gone, and then you have some guy that eased his way in, finagled his way in, Bischoff. He does that, and he wasn't very truthful with me. I don't care what he says right now. I saw him about a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago, in Kevin Sullivan. No, it's about 3 weeks ago. Kevin Sullivan's passed away, and they did a thing for him here in Florida, and I went there. I saw him there. So, I don't hold any grudges. I told him, hey, let bygones be bygones. But he didn't treat me good in WCW. He treated Eddie. Yes, Eddie was like, they wanted to make sure they pushed Eddie. And they usually do that when they don't usually push the older guys. They push the younger guys because they can control them. Let me tell you something. When I was younger, they used to push the older guys, and when I was in wrestling, when I started in my years, they used to push the older guys because they were more experienced. And then, as I got, when I came back to it after getting my degree, because they weren't doing right with me in other territories, they all of a sudden they're pushing all the young guys. So then I'm thinking, well, why? What's going on? The older guys, we know how to do that. We know how to turn on the match. We know how to get the public going. We know how to win one good, because that's experience. At that time, I started my career in '73 as a professional, but like I told you, I was 18 and a half. But when at 12, and then I was doing the lucha drills at 9 and 10 and all that, and I started teaching girls how to wrestle because my dad would give me the girl wrestlers in Mexico to teach them how to wrestle, and that's what we did. And then when I started wrestling, so you get all this experience, and then so when you get into wrestling, it's like you already know it because you've been into it. And plus, if you know and you haven't, you're into it, that you're going to do well. You know what I mean? That you're going to do it. But promoters are different. And my father was a very, very honest promoter. People took advantage of him, not once, but many times. I could tell you people and names in El Paso that took advantage of when he started up El Paso, and then he came back and then started it again, and then they screwed him, and then he decided to come back on his own. You know what I mean? And it just I could give you names, but I'm not going to do that because then that's not right. What it is, it's in the past, and you forgive the past, and you tell them, may God, maybe they learned from their mistakes, and maybe they're doing right.
I mean, we all learn to forgive with the Lord.
Yeah,
Every
yeah,
let bygones be bygones, like in Jesus Christ. Like
yeah, yeah,
just because there's a bad past doesn't mean it's going to be the worst past. We all move forward. Like wrestling, like you just said, with the guys with the most experience, they're the ones that get over the most. But sometimes you want to go with the younger guys, but they need to be a little more seasoned, just so they can understand how to get over. But like you said, there's a difference. Like I think that's how, like WCW was trying to build the young talent, but they weren't really trying to get the young talent way over. They were getting a
yeah.
lot of the veterans. Like they got Kevin Nash, who was already past his time. Hulk Hogan was way over. But you had Eddie, who was the up and coming. You had Benoit, who was really up and coming on his own right.
Yeah, I'm Russell Benoit, and on my first match back with WCW on Nitro, and remember the Nitro went 2 hours, so they put us at the end of the first hour and at the beginning of the first hour, so we were going to translate they go into commercials, and I had to wrestle Benoit. And so what I did, I was so prepared that after I got my degree, I went and started working out on bulk. I wanted to bulk up, so I'm over there bulking up. Well, I didn't work out too much on cardio. So Benoit was a wow, man. It was like it was interesting. Hey, I've never been so blown up in my life on that first match. So the next day, I knew I was going to have to wrestle him about 2 or 3 times more in other towns. So I got up in the morning. I went to the gym, and man, I got on the treadmill, and then I got on the bike, and I just did a bunch of cardio. I mean, I'm talking hard cardio for 30 minutes, like busting it out, like as hard as I could, where I was breathing hard. You know what I mean? I call it blowing out your pipes. So I blew out my pipes. I'm talking about my blood flow. So now the next 3 days, I was able to keep up with him. But Benoit was one of a kind, man. I mean, even my brother told me, Eddie, he said, man, he could go, bro. He said, you gotta be in shape to go with him. And I was like that when I was younger. Now you got to remember when I hit WCW, I was already in my let me tell you, I'm 54, 90, and that's 36, and then I was about 38, 39 years old, and so that was a tough situation for me, and that's I guess promoters like them when they're young, you know what I mean.
Yeah,
I
especially with
saw just forgive me. I just did another podcast with another guy, and one of the guys, I won't say his name, but he worked for WWF, and he said that they used him as a jobber for a long time, and then he was asking to see, hey, are you going to use me? And then he started like at 18, 19, and then he was 26 years old. Look how young he was, still 26 years old. And they said that all right, sorry. And they said that at that time that they told him that he was too old. And I go, what the heck is that? You know what I mean? He helped them out for what, 8 years, close to 8 years, and then they're going to throw him on the like the old wrestlers, like send him out, like when you do a bull, and he's done his years, you set him out to pasture. That's a little difficult. That's a little bit for me to understand that promoters in those that are in charge to abuse those that are giving our bodies, and they're making all the money.
I
So
mean,
yeah, they set it up. You know what I mean? And we wouldn't be able to do it unless we did it like my dad did. We become our own promoters, and that
yeah,
could
they
be
got
possible.
favoritism. They got some
Yeah,
favoritism. They always want to
yeah.
push
Oh, they
the
got. I
talent they
call it.
like.
I call it. They got they're fed with a silver spoon. That's what I call it. You know what I mean?
I
There's a lot
mean,
of those.
I mean, when you look back at your career, I mean, there was an interesting career that you did. You were like kind of like into this character. Like, I don't know what got you into this character.
Oh, the gobbledygooker. Listen, they call me up, and I've talked about this before. People want to ask me, they even have a gobbledygooker figure. And but you know what? They're making all the money, and are they sharing? Even though I signed off on the contract because it wasn't mine. It was there at the end of that. But that they do right. No, not really. Gobbledygooker should have never been done at the Meadowlands. They did it at the Meadowlands in Newark. And I did not wrestle in Newark. I never wrestled in Newark. But I did wrestle in Philadelphia many times. And I knew how the people were in Middle Philadelphia because when I wrestled for Jim Crockett Promotions, I knew Philadelphia. I could turn that crowd on. I knew how to turn them on. But when I got into Newark and I cracked out of that egg, and I hear all the boos, and I'm thinking, wow, man, this is crazy, And it wasn't just a few boos; it was everywhere. It was all around me. Like they were expecting to see something that they were going to get, like maybe Hulk Hogan come out, or one of the girl wrestlers come out of that. They were, and then Gene Okerlund says, "Is it a Playboy model that we're waiting to see here?" And I'm thinking, I was like, "Well, that ain't help it." But he was trying. Then when I come out and they booed it, I said, "Gene, that they're booing it," and he said, he pulled down the mic, and then he said, "Heck, he said, kid," because he called me a kid. "Kid, let's get this over." So we did. We went. We got it over. I was at that time 36 years old. We got it over, and I remember the next day hearing from some of the office people that he was blue and hitting the ropes, and because he wasn't used to doing all that, you know what I mean? But he worked with me great. If you ever go back and see it, and we did a lot of stuff together, and I was so thankful to Gene. We became really good friends after that.
Oh yeah, Gene Okerlund was a really good announcer guy. I mean,
Yeah,
like he did a lot for the interviews and all that stuff. But
yes, he did.
wow, I don't know if this was considered something why they hated it, and that just I like I don't know about that. Hmm. Well, you did go to a lot of these other territories. Like you even like went to like a lot of the California territories, right? When you were working with your dad, you went to like Fresno. You said Fresno was one of your favorite places,
Now,
right?
hold on. I wasn't working for my dad. My dad
Oh,
worked. I worked for my dad in Mexico. I
okay,
worked for
Mexico.
my dad in El Paso, Texas, and I
Okay.
worked for my dad when I was younger, and when he had a territory on his own out of El Paso. But when I went to work to Los Angeles, I worked for Hollywood Wrestling Office. Mike LaBelle was a promoter, Eileen Eaton's son. And if you don't know who Eileen Eaton was the first woman boxing promoter, and that was Mike LaBelle's mom. And Gene LaBelle was his brother. And Gene LaBelle, they used to call him Judo Gene, but Judo Gene is a real deal, man. He's already passed, man. He helped me a lot. He mentored me. That's something I have in common with Ronda Rousey. Ronda was mentored by Gene LaBelle. Well, Ronda, if you ever hear this, he was my mentor too, and he helped me out a lot. He helped me out in the pro wrestling business. He also helped me out about shooting a little bit here and there to protect myself. Uh, Gene was a real deal. There's nobody can tell me that he wasn't, and nobody can tell you or say. As a matter of fact, when I told some of the friends later on in other places in other territories, even people in the streets that knew about martial arts, I'd say, "Do you know a guy named Gene LaBelle?" And they turn around and goes, "You talking about Gene LaBelle?" I go, "Yeah." I said, "Man, that's one of the baddest dudes in the planet," you know. And I believe that because I trained with him, and he helped me get that part with Tony Curtis in doing the movie with the Bad News Bears. He was really involved with Hollywood, and and if Midges listened to here, I want to say my condolences to her again because Gene was just a great guy, and Midges was his wife that he loved at the end. She was great people for him, and that's what I care about, you know. Uh, so I went to wrestle for California for the labels because
For the belt.
Gene
Okay.
was, yeah, the labels. Gene was very, very, very much involved. 1978, I won the Los Angeles Battle Royal. And they used to do a Battle Royal every year, and they would bring in Andre the Giant, bring all these stars from, maybe it's a lot of Dominic Nucci, Victor Rivera, John Tolos. Golly, big names, man, back then in the West Coast, but also in the East Coast in New York. And so Mike LaBelle was very, very communicative with Vince Senior. Talking about Vince McMahon, yeah, Vince McMahon Senior, Vince's dad, and then probably with Vince also too, because they talked a lot too. I'm sure he did, because Vince was very involved with his dad's promotion. So I have I that's the kind of era that I had. Now I had when I was wrestling in California, Moondog Maine, wrestled many times against him. As a matter of fact, I wrestled Moondog's last match. I wrestled him in San Bernardino, and then that night he got sick in the car or something, and he had a wreck, and he died. He didn't die that night, but he died the next within hours in the when they had picked him up and taken him to the hospital. uh, these just bad things, that situation that happened to him. And
Yeah.
but but Moondog and I had one of some of my best matches with Moondog Maine. Then you had Outlaw Ron Bass, and you had John Tolos. I wrestled with John Tolos when I worked for Anton Leone in in it was he started up a promotion in the San Francisco area. So my brother Mando was working for him, and then I went to substitute my brother Mando one time because he had to do some stuff in Hollywood. So he asked me to do it, and I was just coming back from the East Coast, from working all these territories, Tennessee, Florida, you know what I mean. And so I ended up going back to California, and then I'm there, and then I get an opportunity to go up and work in the San Francisco area, and then they teamed Mando and I together, and we wrestled many matches, and loved it. And they had TV, they had oh my God, a lot of big names. John Tolos, I kept talking mentioning John Tolos because John Tolos is a big name in the West Coast, man. He was like one of the biggest stars. Victor Rivera too. You got guys that had that drew crowds. That's what makes money. And Freddie Blassie was there. As a matter of fact, Freddie Blassie refereed was one of my matches, and I had a lot of fun with Freddie. Freddie Blassie, he taught me a lot in the ring. He taught me to be more facials in the ring, because he said, "Come on, short kid. Come on, show it that you're roughing it." I loved it. Yeah, I liked it. He used to call me somebody. You didn't like somebody called him a pencil neck geek. He even had a song called "Pencil Neck Geek." But anyway, that's my trajectory going into California and what I did in California. There was a lot of the Hawaiian guys that would come too. We had Tonga got his start in California. He went to Texas first, and then he came from Texas. But he was also a ex-sumo wrestler, and I Tonga and I traveled for a long time because Mike LaBelle asked me to take care of him. So what I mean, take care of him, I mean, he rode with me, and he didn't have a place to stay, and we'd rent out apartments, or stay in condominiums. Stay at the YMCA one time. At the YMCA, we did, man.
That song,
Hey, listen,
YMCA.
hey, listen. With all due respect, the YMCA, and it was in Hollywood. And the YMCA in Hollywood. I'm sorry, man, but they were the dirtiest sheets I've ever been in, man. I even got scabies, if you know what that is, man. I had to go to the hospital, and they put this calamine solution all over my body to get rid of it. I did. It was crazy, man. But Tonga too. Tonga was. I love Tonga, man. We had a great time in California. then he's still, he's in Florida, and once in a while we see each other, we hug each other, and Tonga was a great guy. I love him. And
Mm.
Tonga is one of the baddest dudes on the planet, man. Don't mess with Tonga, man. Haku, man. Don't mess with Haku, man.
Let's see what this is right here. Oh, this was an interesting, like what happened on that scene with Eddie, where JBL had that little scene where he was close to your mother. Were you at that scene of
Let me
that
see,
house
Hector,
crowd
were
show?
you in the crowd in the house show of WWE in 2004 with JBL, Eddie, and Eddie's mom in Texas? No, but I heard about it. And then, as a matter of fact, do you guys remember the doctor, Dr. Robert Moreno? He's a very, very friend of mine. We grew up together. We were in the seventh grade together and went to the same high school. But Dr. Robert Moreno, and he's a heck of a doctor. He's still in El Paso, and I think he getting close to retiring. But Robert, the thing that happened with my mom, it got serious, and Robert was there. Thank God, with my mom, because my mom had certain circumstances in her blood pressure that he was there to help it out. So it was supposed to be a work, but
Yeah.
it turned out to be a shoot.
Like like JBL even says that he owes his career with Eddie with that, because he said the JBL was not going nowhere without Eddie trying to push for it.
Yes, no, that's true. I understand that, but I'm talking to you about my mother now. Okay, she was put in the storyline, and that thing went on, and so the circumstances they elevated, and when he throws her down on the ground. Like my mom, she's a mother of rock. She's a mother of wrestlers. She's a wife of wrestlers. She's an aunt of wrestlers. She's a sister of wrestlers. She was well involved with the wrestling business all her life. So she knew how to play for it. But when Robert told me that they show Robert, my friend, the doctor, taking her out. When he got her into the dressing room, her blood pressure was shot up real super high, and he said he went to work on her right away. He says, "Man," he says, "I even got scared." He was talking to me. He said, "Man, your mom," he says, "she really it went up." So to the graces of God, that she was still there. She's still here. But that's
Yeah.
what happened then. Did that help, or do you want me to tell a little bit more?
Ooh, this is a good question right here. I have a question for Hector. One of your signature movements was Three Amigos, which is dedicated to Eddie. How is this movement became very popular for a new generation?
Okay, let me tell you, it was not my move. That was Eddie's move. I never
Oh,
did that. I did calling something called a rolling jalapeno. It was a rolling leg split, and I called it the rolling jalapeno. The jalapeno roll. That's what I called it. And I did that. I did different. I did some dives. I would do some certain things, suplexes and stuff like that. But the Three Amigos, that was Eddie's. And then
oh,
Kim
that was
coming off with
Eddie's.
yeah, that was Eddie's. And then him coming off with a frog splash. Well, my brother Mando used to do that frog
Oh,
splash.
Mondo. Okay,
Mondo, yeah. And
that's where
then,
the frog splash came from.
yeah,
Okay.
no, hold on. And then Art Barr did it too. Remember Art Barr?
Oh, the one that Eddie worked with. He used to work
And
with Art Barr in the territory, and then he
yeah, in
passed away.
Mexico, they were the Gringos Locos. And Art Barr would do it too. So Eddie picked it up and made it his own. See, you got to see, wrestling is, you can do a lot of holds. Like I did the jalapeno roll, but you know what? The Terry Funk did it too. So he did it before I did. So every hole has probably been done by somebody. Wrestling started what in the late in the 20s and something like that, 1910s. It started like that my dad told me that it started in fairs, and guys would carry their mat, and then they challenge anybody. If anybody could beat them, they'd get $100, but they had to put up a $10, so they would try it. And those guys they were like Gene LaBelle. They were shooters, what we call a shooter, real wrestling. I learned that from Gene, but I learned that from my dad too. So hopefully that gives a little bit of an explanation about the Three Amigos.
Oh, yeah. like a lot of the moves are pretty much like tributes to what your dad brought to the business. Like they like I think Chavo did a move called the Gory Bomb, which is something under your dad's name, right?
Yes.
Then he
Now,
made that move.
yeah. Now that's the gory special. But then Chavo would let the hands go, and then
Yeah,
he'd lift, and then it make the guy go down in front of his face. Now that's a completely derivation of Chavo Jr. And you know what? I take my hat off to Chavo Jr. for that. You know what I mean? That was his, and he used his grandfather's move, and then he added to it, and so he called it the Gory Bomb. And Chavo Jr. is great. He did it awesome. You know what I mean?
yeah, he mastered that
My
move.
nephew, I love my nephew a lot. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
He's a
he would
Guerrero.
master that move, but I believe Gory made this submission move where it's still used to this day, but they
Yeah.
call it camel clutch, right?
No. Oh yeah. That was the one that he gave. He gave. You know, when you get when you stand, you get the guy in front. The head's in the front, and you go and you pull his head up, and you put his arms over your knees, and you sit into his back, and you grab him from the chin. That was the camel clutch that that was taught. That and that was the El Santos move. And there was other moves that were done in Mexico. My uncle Henry had one too. They called it La Cerrajera, which means my uncles were had a business of making keys, and they call it cerrajeria in Spanish. So La Cerrajera mean like the like that business, but and they made it, and it's a great move. It's kind of like the abdominal stretch, but you step over the guy, you hook your leg over his back, and you hook the other leg, and then you got the guy, like kind of like arms up, and you get the arms up. It's a great move. It's called la cerrajera, and he used it a lot. My uncle, you know what I mean? I've used it before, but I didn't use it as my finishing move.
Yeah, it's
So
still one of the most effective like submission moves even to
yeah,
this day. I mean, there's like different kind of moves that you see that even the tributes of what you see from Guerrero, he still does that. You know that one where he jumps off the rope and lands like a little like kind of like a front flip thing, or where he lands to the opponent.
yeah.
And then let's see. Ooh, I think I remember watching the Chips before. I think my dad used to watch this all the time, but I guess there was an episode of Eric Estrada where he kind of like I guess try to imitate you.
Eric Estrada imitate me.
Not like the poncho, whatever the style you guys had back in the day, where you guys were dressed up like
Like the wrestling like Chavo and I did. We did
yeah,
the I really that came from Mando. Mando had that idea. My brother
okay,
Mando's very creative. My brother Mando is a very creative guy. Uh, he said one day we were out there, hey, I'm thinking about I'm gonna put a Mexican hat and get some gun belts and all that. And I'm thinking about it. So he never did it, but I picked up on it and I did it. And I started it here in Florida, and it worked. My dad had me some real gun belts made, and then when Chavo and I we bought those other gun belts that were made from from machine guns. You know what I mean? And
yeah,
they were like that. There's a real funny story. Chavo and I were wrestling in Mid South, and those gun belts, we didn't know that they still had the caps in them, and the caps had the gunpowder. So we're wrestling the Rock and Roll Express in it was in I think in Louisiana, and I was trying to remember where it was. I think it was in Biloxi, Louisiana, and the crowd was in there. So Chavo would come out and he start rolling the gun belts like that, right? So when he rolled the gun belts, they hit, and it sounded, and it went pa 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 pa. So Chavo and I looked at each other. And we go, "Hey man, they're shooting at us because we were the bad guys, right?" So we run, we jumped out of the ring, and we go under the the ring, and he's like, "Man, what is it? What is it?" He said, "I don't know, man." He said, "But it did sound." He said, "Yeah, I saw that. I think they're shooting at us because we had so much heat. You know what heat is in wrestling? When the bad guys have heat, people hated us, man, in Florida, in the Louisiana territory, because we were the bad guys, man. We knew how to cheat. We would cheat really bad, and so
if you're not
we
cheating,
were,
you're not trying,
yeah.
like
So
they say.
we're underneath the thing, and dude. finally, I think it was Ricky Morton jumps over the top, and he goes, "Hey man, are they shooting at you?" Then Chavo,
And
he
in
had the
those
gun
days,
still in
the
his
heat
hand.
was pretty big. It was a
Yeah,
pretty big
so
deal with the heat.
so he had the gun bill still in his hands, right? And he goes, "Oh no! I think they're for the gun belt." So we came out and we started and we continued the match. We did.
Uh,
Hey, can I have like about a 2 minutes of break?
yeah,
Can we
two
do that? Can
minutes.
you hold it for a little bit, or
Yeah,
can you hold it?
I got you for 2 minutes, man. You're good.
You good?
Yeah, I got you.
All
Yeah,
right.
you're good, man.
I'll be right back. Give me a moment.
Yeah, yeah, he'll be right back, guys. Hector Guerrero, man, he's got some good stories, man. I'm telling you, man. There's some good stuff, man. Oh, and the TV show they used to have, yeah. Nah, he's just take a little break, man. He'll be back. Sorry if I'm not able to read some of your guys' questions. I'm trying to listen to the story. I'm trying to acknowledge the greatness of this man because it seems to me he's got a lot of great stories, man. Hard for the near future, we can work something down the road with him. But yeah, he seems like a good storyteller, just from the experience. And I know a lot of you young generation are more accustomed to Eddie, but Gory was the patriarch, man. He was the man. He was the man that paved the way for the Guerrero. I guess I mean you look at Mando, Chavo, Hector, they were trailblazers in their own right. But Hector and Eddie just look pretty much the same. Like they look alike. Yeah, he's a fun man to talk to. He seems to, I mean, he knows the business, so it's just, I don't take nothing for granted, man. Especially for any legendary wrestler, it's always an honor to just get to know all about their journeys and all that, man. It's just great. Hey, man, you're back.
Yeah, give me a moment here. Let me sit up here.
Oh yeah, man.
And
No
you know
problem,
what?
man.
I don't know if all my. I mean, I'm not ashamed to tell people. If I'm old,
Yeah.
and I have to use a if I'm old and I have to use a walker, it is what it is. You know what I mean? I do. I have a walker. Wrestling's not as famous as
Oh,
you think it is.
what was your TNN run? You were at your end of your career going to be a manager at TNA, huh? I know you had some good work with LAX and then did some Spanish announcing.
Okay, I did. What happened was there's a guy named Cajegas. I think he's an independent wrestler. He's a very good friend of mine. Wrestled him in a lot of independent shows, and we got so close. I kind of mentored him, and he was a great guy. We got along really really good. Uh, Cajegas is just one great guy. I loved him and still love him, and I still can stay in touch with him. I recommend him to any promoter that could, if everyone. He's savvy, and you can't mess with him. I mean, he's good. He's good in the ring, and that's what's good. When you're good in the ring, you know what? You got to give those guys a chance. So I talk to any of the wrestlers that any promoters that still think that you got to put in all these young guys just because they look good. I'm sorry, good looks don't make it. They'll make it for a little bit, but if they don't know how to do anything in the ring, it's going to go like. Boom. Anyway, you want to know about TNA wrestling? So I
Yeah.
went 2007 with Cajegas. Say, man, let's go. I'm going to go check it out. So they have their studios, and they were doing studios in Universal Studios in Orlando. So we got there, and I just came in to say, they looked at me like, man, you kind of trying to come here, seeking a job. I said, no, I just came to say hi to the guys, and I did. So Mike Tenay, forgive me, Mike Tenay come by and looked at me, and Mike Tenay and I had been friends from WCW because we talked a lot. And he came over and he looked at me and we said hello and everything. And he says, hey, would you consider working for this company? I go, Mike, I just came to say hi. I don't want to start any problems. He says, would you? And I go, well, if it came up, if it's okay, I consider it. So then about 10 hours, I'm talking to LAX, and all the guys there, and we're laughing, and I'm talking to them, and here comes Dixie Carter. And I kind of knew that she was kind of like very, very, very good, that's the money there. You know what I mean? That's her dad, Mr. Carter, was the one that was doing what they do so things could get going. Jeff Jarrett was there. I had said hi to Jeff, and Jeff was very much in control then too. So she asked me, she says, "Would you consider working for us?" And I said, "Maybe, yeah, it just depends on what you want me to do." I wasn't looking for wrestling anymore, and usually because they had done what they had done to me in WCW, and I didn't like that, and I didn't feel like being a jobber for somebody else. And if they want to, they go over there and beat somebody and get themselves over. I'm talking to all these young punks, forgive me for saying that, all these guys that come in here and take for granted the guys that have already paved the way for wrestling, and they come in and they think that they deserve it all when they never even paid dues. And I'm sorry, but there's a lot of them like that, and that's the truth. But let me get away from that.
Yeah, I mean, you were kind of like you value yourself a lot more and your reputation, so
yeah,
you really
yeah,
stood for what you stood for yourself.
yeah, and they had already taken advantage of me in WCW. Remember, I told you about that, and so I wasn't going to fall for the same stupid trick again. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
I went ahead and they asked me to do it. I said, well, he says, would you consider being helping in the Spanish commentator as a color commentator? Because they knew I'm very Hispanic. I puedo hablar muy bien el español. Todos los que quieran preguntar las preguntas que ahorita pueden decir con Mike o que quieran decir y las voy a contestar en español. I just said I was very fluent in Spanish and I could answer their questions in Spanish if they wanted me to. So if they ask you questions and they want to ask you in Spanish, I can read it and I can answer it. Okay. So they agreed to it, and then Moody was a friend of Conan, and Conan was doing some color commentating at the time, and something was going on with Conan in the office. I don't know what, and I respect Conan, and I didn't get involved in it. So apparently they had some words or something, and they were telling me, can you take the spot and a color commentator? And I said, yeah. I says, but he was still wrestling too, you know what I mean? So I figured he was just going to go wrestling. But then that escalated and he left the company because I don't know what happened with them and then TNA. And then later on, he came back again. So I guess they patched their circumstances. And that's when he was with LAX. And then they did some things against me and la 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 storylines, remember they were using my name as Guerrero and the Guerrero name. So, but I really enjoyed working for TNA. I worked from 2007 to 2015. And then Willie Urbina was with me at that time too. And we became very close friends. Willie's he's a play-by-play wrestling commentator, and he's very good. He's like one of the best I've ever had and heard. Golly, and he pronounces his words correctly. In Puerto Rico, people when they say the R's, they usually say L's, like Puerto Rico. They'll say Puerto Rico, and instead of saying Puerto Rico, but Willie pronounces it with Spanish with R's really good. And I'm not making fun of any Puerto Ricans. I'm just telling you that's the way it is, and that's how it is because that's how they pronounce things, and it's okay with me. You know what I mean? And if you go to Puerto Rico, that's the way they talk, and you hear them in Spanish. So I had a great time with them. I had 8 years. I was blessed. I had a good time with Willie. Towards the end there, they let him go first, and they had me doing for about 2.5, close to 3 months, doing the play-by-play and color commentating by myself because that's what they wanted. And then they said they were going to go and sell out. Whatever. I don't know what happened. They gave me my notice. I finished it, and I thanked them very much because I was very thankful. I had 8 good years, and a bit very,
I mean, at least you had a longer career at what you did, so you got the opportunity to manage a good tag team that was very good and controversial. Their type of character. It went from you being the manager, and then it went from Conan being the leader, right? So it's like that was like, yeah, it kind of had the the other version of the LWO, but a different version of it. It
yeah.
kind of resembled that.
They asked me to be a manager for them at one time, and I did, and I took it, and I took it to the, they do, the LAX was a thug. They're thugs. That's what they are. That's
Yeah,
the truth. It's wrestlers, yeah, but they're representing thugs because they come with the bandanas and do the all the signs and all that. And I say, hey, so how do you do LAX? So they told me, here, do this figure like this, and I'm over there doing it. Okay, do you got it right? I said, I hope so,
it's like that street thug,
So I'm
like the
over there, I'm
LA
doing
street
like that,
type of thing,
and there's a
right?
picture with
Like
me.
like the
There's a
LA
picture with
street
me.
thing.
Yeah, there's a picture with me going
What's
like,
up, Holmes?
yeah, I got my mouth open like I'm catching flies or something. So
I
it was,
mean, wait a minute. I
listen,
didn't even get to this question because I know I remember you said something about having a phone call with Vince McMahon when he was calling you on the phone in 1990 for that role.
yeah, you know what? I was trying to get into the WWE. I had already I hadn't. That's kind of like what started getting me to going back to school. I also went through my first divorce. It was a tough one, but she's doing. I'm talking my first wife. She's doing very good, and I really I apologize to her later. And she's married and got kids, and she's doing great. And I'm happy for her. I'm glad she found somebody that loves her. You know, and apparently I didn't love her right, so I'm glad she found somebody to love her. So getting back to shoot the question again because that got me
Oh,
off my
oh no,
off my.
no. I was letting you finish what you got, and then I just seen the. I guess I missed on this one right here. Hey
Oh, about
Hector, what
Vince.
was the
Okay.
phone call? Yeah.
Okay, I got you. I'm looking at it right there. So what happened was I was trying to call. I needed a job, man. I was a gymnastics coach. I learned how to do gymnastics, and they liked me because I could spot really good the kids, and I taught from little babies all the way to the elite level, and I would catch guys from doing the giants off the high bar into and and doing fulls and doing layouts and double layouts and you catch them so they don't fall on their head, poor guys, so you make sure you get your body on the line. I really enjoyed working. It was called Perpetual Motion in Maryville, Tennessee. So I really enjoyed that. But getting back, so I was calling to see if I could just maybe they give me a chance to come back to wrestling again, and I could probably do something, with life, and maybe make some money that I've never made because I never made the big bucks like my brother Eddie did. My dad made some money when he was younger, and when he was the star in Mexico, a lot of money. And but I made good, but I didn't make like mega bucks. So I was looking for that opportunity, and I had heard about WWE. So it was WWF at one time, and then it went to WWF, World Wrestling Federation. So remind me later to tell you about WWF, why they changed it to WWE. Remind me that later, and I'll tell you why. Got it? Did you hear
Yeah.
me? Okay. So
Well,
let's go
I
back.
think the.
Oh, I'll give you the whole deal. I'll give you the whole deal. I'll give you the
Okay.
real.
There
I'm
you go.
gonna tell you the real truth. Fair? All right. And I know you might heard something else, and if it is, maybe it's what I'll tell you. Okay. So let
Okay.
me get back to this. So I was trying to call. So I call. When you try to get booked, so you start trying to call those promoters, man. You call. So nobody would answer. Nobody would answer. I leave messages. Nobody answered. Nobody answered. Nobody answered. Nobody answered. You know. So I'm like, man, what's up with this? So finally, I called one time, and I'm in Tennessee, and I'm still working as a gymnastics coach. And I called, and I says, "Who is this?" And they answered, and he said, "Who is this?" And I recognized the voice because I knew who he was. It was Pat Patterson. And I said, "This is Hector Guerrero." He says, "Who gave you this number?" And I said, "Pat, I just see if I can, I would like to see if there's an opportunity." He goes, "Don't ever call this. Don't ever call this again." And bam, he slammed because it slammed on me. And I went, wow. So I said, okay, you know what? F you, you know? So the thing about gobbledygooker comes up, and I think it was Dusty Rhodes was working with them, and Dusty mentioned my name that they wanted to do the character for the gobbledygooker. So they start calling, and my ex says, "Hey man, Hector, there's a call here for you." And says, "Who is it?" They say it's a World Wrestling Federation. I says, "Hang up." You don't treat somebody like doo doo, and then I'm not sold out to money. I want to tell everybody, Jesus is my Lord. I'm not sold out to money. Okay. But I did want to make a good living, for once in my life, maybe buy a home or buy something that I could, I still don't even have a home. I have a condo, a townhome. I would love to have my own home, but it's all right. If that's not my role in life here, I know my Lord has me. If it's not for me to have, then I won't have one. It's okay. It's okay with me. So they kept calling back, and my ex says, "Hey man, they're calling you back. They want to really talk." They said, "Please," this is get Hector on the phone. And I says, "No." I said, "I don't care. Hang it up." I hang it up. They called me several times. I picked up. I hung them up. And hung up. Finally, one time I wasn't paying attention, maybe the sixth or seventh call, and it says, and I said, "Hello, who's this, Hector? Hello, who's this? Hey, Hector, don't hang up. Vince wants to talk to you." So I'm like, wow, Vince wants to talk to me. Maybe maybe they're gonna do right with me. So I said, okay. So then he says, "Hector, we have an idea, blah 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 blah." He told me all the thing, and he says it's for the kids. He says, "Are you interested?" I go, "If it's for the children, yes." He says, "If it's for the children, yes." And it's okay. Well, let me hand you over. And he puts me over with Pat Patterson. So I go, wow, one more time again. I almost hung up on them right there. I really almost did. I was about to hang up. And then Pat, I guess, "Oh, hey, Hector, blah, 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 and he's sweet talking me. So, I went ahead because I think I thought more of the kids than me. So, that's what happened. That's the phone call, and that's when I accepted. And then they flew me in. I was picked up in a limo, and guess who was in the limo with me?
Who?
Mark, the Undertaker.
Oh,
He was
Undertaker.
with me. Yeah, I get into the limo, and there's, "Hey, what you doing?" I had met him. I had met him at WCW. Just said hi to him, And he says, "Hey," he said, "You too?" I said, "I guess so." He said, yeah, but then they left me off, and they said, "Look, we're going to take it to the seamstress because they got to get this thing done because I had put them off so long that the Gooker thing had to be done quickly." The costume. So they took me to the seamstress, and then they took me to see Vince. So he was nice to me at first. The first time I saw him there, Roddy was with him, and they were doing voiceovers some of the matches. So you know what a voiceover is? That's what they were doing, and he smiled at me and shook my hand, and he treated me right. And I thought it was going to be a great thing, but after that flop at the Meadowlands, which I already told you about. There's other things that happened too, but that was the main one.
I mean, you had pretty much an interesting career the way you look at it. You went from going from other territories. You won that one title behind you that you have right there.
Yeah, oh yeah, that's from Lasertron. See, this is
Lasertron,
almost My second ring worn, as you can see, look how it's all worn out. Look at the, you can look at the little thing. These are supposed to be antennas. I was working for Crockett Promotions, and this is before, this is before Gobbledygooker. I've always been a thing for the kids. You guys don't know that, but I just finished. I'm just retired from my teaching career, and I taught elementary school kids. I love children, man. In PE, you're teaching PE, man, you're playing games with them. And at first I was able to do a lot of things with them as I got older and hurt more, you know what I mean? It was more difficult for me, but I've always loved the children. But Dusty, I was talking to Dusty where I was wrestling there, and I said, Dusty, why don't we do something for the kids? And he says, what do you got in mind? So he was the booker. So I went and talked to him. So I showed him this picture of a mask. And he said, well, how about a guy that's like, I had thought about the Megatron. They had the Megatron, all the things about the Transformers were big then with the kids. So I thought, and we used to, the wrestlers, sometimes we used to go and play laser tag. I don't know if you ever played laser tag, but it's a lot of fun. You got the thing in the chest, like I had, and then you got the gun, and then you go around try to shoot each other, and it beep 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 beep. And once you get to five shots, then it starts going. You're
Oh,
out.
I played it as a kid. I never
Well,
played it
it's a
with a
lot of
bunch of
fun.
like, yeah,
I'm
where
sorry.
they would shoot you and you get caught up, and then it's like you got shot or something in a
No,
way,
no,
and
no.
it's
It's
like
just
you're done.
it's there. It's laser tag. Look, see that thing right there?
Oh, so you got the
Laser tag.
mask
And
on with for
then I had over
NWA,
here.
okay, with the
Over
Lasertron.
here, I had the gun right there. You see, right there.
That's the title you got right there. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the title right there. Now that title is not the original title. It's better than the original title because it's got upgraded stuff. A friend of mine, Bruce Owens from Miami, a very personal friend of mine, donated it to me, and we're very close friends. So hi, Bruce, if you hear this, much love, brother. I really respect him. He's great. He's my buddy. Always been good. He used to referee our matches sometimes here in Florida. My brother Chavo and I used to travel with us, and we always wanted Bruce around us. And sometimes he was an announcer, sometimes he was a referee. So we really like him. And so let's get back to Lasertron. So so you see the mask. It's probably that's the same mask right here. Later on, instead of having, I decided to put a zipper on the back, and I velcroed on the back because I got tired of lacing it up. You lace it up and tie it up and stick it under here, and it's difficult. So I decided to put a zipper on the back, like a lot of, and then I put some Velcro over it. They had a lady in Charlotte, North Carolina, that helped me with all the get up. So Lasertron was a thing with Dusty and I, and we came up with called it Laser and then Tron, like some of the Transformers, and then we decided to make a story about that he was from the planet Lasera, kind of like the same thing, and so it was for the kids, and it started getting really over. If you understand what that means, over. That means it started getting really popular, and I couldn't even walk to the ring with the kids around me. They were all pressing me, and it was like I couldn't walk. I'm like, they're all around me, and a lot of the guys say, Hector, they're all around you. I go, yeah, man, it's getting over. But then Rastford, and I think if he ever hears this podcast, he'll know who he is. Mentioned something in the dressing room about if I had it patented. Well, yeah, it's you're gonna patent it. It's an idea, And so when the promoter heard about it, he grinned. He made a growl and he left the dressing room. And then all of a sudden, about a month later, they're asking me to go back and become Hector Guerrero again. So I'm like, I left the territory.
I mean,
you figure out what they're trying to do. I told Dusty, I gave him back the belt. I said, here, man, I love you, man. You've been really great for me, but this situation's not right. And I left and went to work to Tennessee and worked for Jerry Jarrett. for like the
Yeah,
third time.
I mean, you worked in a lot of different territories, but there was
Yeah,
quite a few territories that I had to check out some of the old classic matches of yours, and you had a tag team title with Dr. D, which is Styles, not the other
yeah,
guy,
yeah.
but you had, I don't know, the promo with you
All
and Jerry
styles.
Lawler was just kind of interesting. It was like an intense kind of promo.
Yeah,
You and Dundee.
yeah, I know where he pulls out a gun on me and all that. You know what? That was Jerry's idea. That wasn't my idea. Jerry, that like okayed it with Jerry Lawler, and hey, we'll pull out a gun on you and you go crazy, la da 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 da, and then, but he used to like, oh, like I was a real scaredy cat. You know what? Every time I wrestled him, he's always talking to me. Now Hector, now Hector, now Hector, because I'd run circles around if I wanted to, and he might tell you something different right now, but I knew I could, and it's just, you know,
I
I.
mean, yeah,
I wasn't treated well by him, but no guy on top treats anybody well because they're afraid of losing their spot. So I understand
somewhere
Jerry.
like that.
And
Yeah,
listen, hold on, let me finish. So
okay.
Jerry, if you're listening to this, I forgive you, and I understand because I've been on top too. But if you're good, you don't have to do that. You can do it in the ring. And if that's where I could do it, I knew I could do it in the ring. And it didn't have to be my mouth. It didn't have to do for I could do it in the ring with the moves. And that's and the moves and knowing the psychology of wrestling, which a lot of wrestlers nowadays don't have. They choreograph everything from the beginning to the end. It's horrible. They wouldn't be able to wrestle. I couldn't wrestle without that. I went to Spain when I was in 1974 and they had seven, five, seven, eight high spots, choreographed high spots in every match, and everybody had their high spots, and you had to learn all of them, and that was very difficult for me because I came from a place where you learned how to wrestle and you learn how to chain wrestle. You grab a headlock, you reverse the headlock, you go to a top twist lock, you go behind, you go from behind for a twist lock, you drop down, you drop the leg, you shoot up, and you get a headlock again. And that's what you call chain wrestling. And a lot of people didn't understand that nowadays. Back then you did because that's how we taught to wrestle. It was taught in Mexico, it was taught in the United States, it was taught in Japan, it was taught everywhere. I went to Japan 3 times, by the way, too.
I mean, there was a lot of different like ways they were taught. Like in Japan, they had different ways of wrestling. In Mexico, was a little different style. But you had, like you were saying about how some of those guys feel insecure. That's why they try to do those type of things to those other talents because they feel like they're losing their job over those type of young guys.
Well, they want to keep their position because if you're in the main event, you're making the top dog money, and that's the mega bucks. So usually your main eventer, you have like your first match, second match, third match. First match is the lowest paid. Second match so. Third match you start getting better pay. Fourth match we used to have 5 matches when I wrestled, 5 to 6 matches. When you started getting into semifinals and finals, you're getting a lot better pay, and guys knew that, and I when I was in California, my brother Chavo said, "Well, it's the difference between hamburger and eating a steak. What do you want to eat?" That's what he would tell me. Well, I like to eat steak, but hamburger's not bad. But the best is steak. He said, "Well, that's the difference here." So my brother Chavo really taught me a lot. He was great. He I miss him, man. I really miss him. He's my
I
oldest brother,
mean,
Chavo. I really miss him. I,
Travel Senior, like he was like on your like the tag team with you guys. He was a good singles wrestler from watching those other classic matches I've
he was a
seen
head.
where he could like put on a match even at his age when he was competing at the end of his career.
Yeah,
He still did a moonsault at 55.
yeah, yeah.
No
You know
way. Like
what?
it's just, but it comes with the Guerrero territory. Is you either
Yeah.
got the genes, even with the best quote that JBL even says, there's not a single Guerrero who doesn't work. I mean, there's like you guys know how to work, is what he said.
Well, that's who do you think? Salvador Gory Guerrero, my dad, right there. I showed you a picture earlier. Who do you think then?
Yeah.
You would have, oh, you would have loved him. He was great. If you, he, man, there was never, I could never satisfy him at times. And he did satisfy. One time I was wrestling as Lasertron and world champion. And he comes to me and he I was talking to, no, I'm sorry. He was, I called him on the phone and he tells me, Hector, I says, yeah, Dad. He says, your timing is off. Now, people don't know what timing is in wrestling. Well, I said, well, Dad, I'm a champion. He says, Hector, your timing is off, son. I go, really, Dad? He says, yeah, go back to the lucha drills. So what I did the next month, when I got to the arenas, I go early. I leave about 30 minutes early. And sometimes Boogie would drive with me, Boogie Woogie Man, because we were tagging together in the Carolinas. And so I go in and I go up in the ring. I saw the ring up. I go up in there by myself, nobody watching me. There were no people in there. And I start doing all my lucha drills. I start doing my lucha drills there. Certain lucha drills that you can do that gives you timing. And those are the ones that I was doing. So he sees me about 2-3 weeks later on a match and on TV. And he says, son, I said, yes, sir, Dad. And he said, your timing's back. Good work. So that's kind of like the father that I had. I had a father that was that taught the Guerreros to be perfectionists. My dad was getting sick when Eddie was learning how to wrestle. He had two of his friends to learn with him. A guy named Art Flores from El Paso and Hector Rincon, which is still a great wrestler. Both of them great wrestlers. And still friends of mine, and we stay in touch. And my mom said that one time he was like sick. He was so sick, but they were doing stuff in the ring that he would talk to them. He's sitting on the outside of the backyard because we had the ring in the backyard, and he'd be telling them how to do it and what to do. He said they were doing it right. So my mom said he got in there and he was very sick, and he got into it with them, and he stretched them. What stretching means. He did the real wrestling with them. So he got their respect and they listened to him, including Eddie. So my dad would do that to us all the time when we were young. He really, really was a stickler on his wrestling moves, on the choreography of how to do it in the ring without talking it, doing it like I just explained earlier. I shouldn't have said choreography because choreography is meaning you're talking it, you're doing it. I shouldn't have said that. I said how to wrestle. That's what it is. It's like a chess game. You got to know the moves to play chess. If you don't know the moves, you can't play chess. Yeah, but you're not going to go like, oh, okay, I'm going to move my king, I'm going to move my queen, but to eat your bishop, but you can use your other bishop to kill me. No. Cast that down in Jesus' name. No, not at all. No, not. It doesn't work that way. Not in the wrestling that I learned. You know what I mean? We really wrestled. It's kind of like, now you go with a movement. Yeah, you do. But with the other movement, he doesn't know that you're going to reverse it. So I reverse it. I do a lot of things. If you see some of my younger matches against wrestlers, I'm very aggressive. That was the Guerreros. The Guerreros, we were taught to be aggressive in the ring. My mom said, my mom put it this way. He says, your dad did not create followers. He created ring generals. And if you ever see our matches, even as a 3-man tag, when we were doing the things for AWA as a Mando, Chavo, and I, as we were doing it, we took over the matches. That's it. And then when one of us would sell, that means let the other guys beat on us, and then we do our comebacks. It's because we decided to do it, not because they wanted to do it. We controlled the match. That's the way it was. But we controlled it not by choreography. We controlled it in ring at the time, at the moment. And what do you do? It's like leading an orchestra. It's like listening to the crowd. That's what these guys don't understand now. Well, we're going to get them when we do this and we do that. And then, you do this. And then maybe they're going to get a pop or they're going to. No, we did it up there. We created things up there. And that's the difference between the wrestling that we learned, and that's the difference of the wrestling that now exists, that is choreographed.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like the way you guys did it was a little more tougher compared to what you got in today's wrestling, but
Not really, not really. Forgive me, but for me to have to remember from the moment you walk out to every move that lock up and do this behind, and I'll go behind here. Now we'll hit the ropes. Let's do it twice. Okay, now what should we do? And I'll talk all of that before the match. Are you kidding? I wouldn't be able to do that. That's what I'm trying to tell you. No, me, I get in there and I wrestle. Now you talked about the ending of the match because that's what the promoter wanted. And a lot of
I
times
mean, there is more of those
things
stunt
change.
flips.
I'm sorry?
There is
Well,
more of those stunt flips and all the stuff that they do today's wrestling, but it's not like where they're taking care of their bodies more.
no, but there's a lot of very, very, no, hey, look, I take off my hat to these guys. Some of these guys can do some moves that I can't never do. You know what I mean? But that's not wrestling. You go back and you look at some of the old wrestling, and you start it from the beginning because you got to watch from the moment you tie up to the moment to the end, and then you see the drama. We created drama in the ring. We created it in the ring, and that's without talking. And we brought it to a culmination to where you do the finish. That's the ending of the match, and the only thing that was talked about was probably the ending of the match and how the guy would. What the promoter wanted of the guy that wanted to win. Now, sometimes things didn't happen, and things got turned over the wrong way. And if the guy couldn't hold his own and he got either hurt or beat, that's the way it was. And the promoter said, well, what happened? And then you tell him, well, this happened, this happened, this happened. Sometimes it was done on purpose. The promoters didn't know that. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
we were fighters. We just didn't go. And our dad taught us we were all amateurs. Chavo, Mando, myself, and Eddie. We were all amateurs, amateur wrestlers. And, and we were all, Chavo, Mando, and I were also judo. We were in judo in Mexico. And we learned all this, and then you get to learn a little bit of shoot. That's the real wrestling. That's like ensemble, you go for the kill, you go for the submission, and that's the real deal, with kind of like what you see in what is it in some of the like taekwondo. It's not taekwondo. What is it? There's a thing where you go for the submission. That's it. Ensemble with wrestling. That's much. You know what I mean? So that's the wrestling that we were taught.
Yeah. A little different. I mean, like the way you guys were taught were more of the physical style. I mean,
Yeah,
it's changed over. Like it's still the same the way the finishes, but they do more stunts. But they do too much of what you can't do, like you just said. Like I don't know how
are
they
you
just
listening
do
to me?
this.
Listen to me. I'm sorry. Let me, CG. Please forgive me for interrupting you. Look, I do a lot of. They asked me to come and look at some people or at some wrestling schools, and I've done some of them. And I tell them that I say, if I couldn't wrestle the way you guys, well, what do you mean? I go, well, you guys talk your matches through. Well, don't you? Didn't you? I go, no. We never talked anything, only the finish, only the ending. It says how we got there, we created the drama in the ring. And these are guys, I'm talking to you about Luthes. I'm talking to you about Moondog Maine. I'm talking John Tolos, Freddie Blassie. I'm talking about guys that were awesome. And then if they were older than you, you were the one that were listening because we talked to each other in the ring. Yeah, we don't hold on, back off. You might tell us, send him to the rope, and he says, hip toss. And we talk it in the ring as it's happening. As it is happening. So we create the drama in the ring. Okay? Now, sometimes it got out of hand and guys got stupid. You come in and they start slapping you in the back or they start kicking you. There's a match in I've seen it on YouTube where this guy's kicking Inoki and Antonio Inoki. And he's doing all this stuff. This big guy. And then Inoki turned around and kicked the living booty off of that guy. Poor guy. And I see it, and I can see that. I've seen stuff like that happen many times when guys get stupid, and they were instead of hitting to make it solid, they hit to hurt. And that guy was doing that, and Inoki just kicked the shit out of him. I'm sorry, that's forgive my language, but he did. He just kicked the booty out of that guy.
Yeah, man. Well, we've been going for like 90 minutes. Damn, bro. Like really good to learn what you're going through your history, man. Like definitely down the road, we'll probably work something down the road, man. I just like listening to what you got to say about your stories, man. It's really
Well,
it's really good, man. Like I'm learning a lot about your dad and learning about the Guerrero family and learning about the territories of what it was back then. It just makes me learn more about the history better, man.
Well, I want to also tell you that my father was a Christian. He believed in Jesus, and he would have us go to what do you call it? Go to church, and we started going to church. We were Baptists at that time, Southern Baptist. My mother was Catholic, and when she married my dad, she became a Baptist. Later on in my life, I got tired of many. I tried so many religions. I became down on religion, and I decided not to do any organized religion, and I decided to give my life to Jesus in 100%, not 80, 90%, and then religion here, supposedly this. So, people say, how long do you pray? I don't know. I'm in communication with God with what he can do for me. I do it as much as I can. And maybe it's 24/7 for me. It's a constant understanding of talking to the Creator. He's the Creator. Jesus is the Creator. And those that are loving and those that are understanding will know this because they give their life to Jesus. And then not only with that, they learn about being close to the Creator of the whole existence, the whole shebangs. And this is what I understand. There's two things we don't know. Okay. When you're born and when you might croak, right? Pass away. Unless a person decides to do a stupidity, which is called suicide. And I tell you, anybody thinking of that, you will not enter the gates of freedom, of love, of being in existence of with the Creator. Okay, that has to be his decision. So, like we're born and we don't know when we're going to die. We don't know that, but you know what? One has to work out their salvation, and believe in who makes it possible, which is Jesus dying on the cross. Everybody's heard about that. And right now in America, it's really, really, really pretty bad about what they do. I tell you what, I wear my hat and I go into places and I get some of the nastiest looks. And it's usually with the worst, the LGBTQ. They're the worst. I don't say nothing to them, if at all, I would pray for them, You know what? We all have an eternity, and if I had an outer body existence, experience, and I almost passed away one time, and I saw myself out of my body, and a lot of people have seen that, and so I know that when you're about to croak or something, and you're out of your body, there's another existence, and I don't think he's going to be letting us not know what it is. And so that's why Jesus comes, sacrifices himself,
Amen.
Gives his blood for us, so that we can be forgiven for all the stupidity that I'm very stupid sometimes, I know that, I ask God forgiveness all the time. And I said, Jesus, please cover me with your blood, that's my part now. As you get older, you start thinking about when you're gonna leave this earth, and it makes you think a lot more. The wrestling was fine. I love it. I've enjoyed it. The teaching was fine. The gymnastics was fine. I've enjoyed it, and anything that the Lord permits me to have so far here, as long as it's good, I'm going to be fine.
Oh yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, thank you for your time, man. We've been having a great time, man. We'll probably schedule something on your free time. I definitely like to hear a lot more. I mean, it's been a blast, man.
It's been a blast, my friend. It's been a great time with everybody hearing me. I didn't mean to offend anybody. I know I talked about pretty strong about some guys that do wrong to others, but they do wrong not just to me, they did wrong to a lot of people. But I'm not their judge. So there's a prayer that we pray for those that don't understand. We say, Father, forgive them, for they know not what to do. And I'm hoping that they learn, because hell is and hell is forever, and so is heaven. So that's a choice we have to make.
Yeah. Amen, man.